buy up a point or whatever, the reality is it doesn't make that much of a difference most of the time, right?
Yeah.
It really doesn't. And you say, well, John, if it doesn't make a difference, then why do you do it? Because look, I can't stomach being on the right side of a game and getting plus 2.5 and they lose by 3.
Right.
When I could have just laid an extra 20 to 30 cents to get it to 3.5. 40 cents with a bad book, right? I just can't stomach that. Same thing, to me, if you're at 3, you got to go to 4. Again, key numbers for me, 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, 11, right? So how much of those key numbers can I get back? You know what I mean? So like tonight, I was kind of intrigued about the Packers, but 6.5. Look,
Right.
if you take plus 6.5, don't you feel like a total jackass if they lose by 7?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have to lay juice. I only laid 110. You lost, you dumbass. So why didn't you just stop being a cheap, broke bitch? Just like when your wife says, can I have this? And you got to say, we really can't. We're on a budget because, I work a shitty job and I have no motivation to be better for you and our kids. It's the same way. Spend the extra money. It's like first class. Have you ever flew first class, AJ?
It's been a while, but yes, it's amazing. 100%
It's amazing.
Worth it. Yeah.
So once you fly first class, unless you're going with your kids, right? Because that's a different ballgame. If you're not flying with your kids, why would you ever go back to economy ever again?
I mean,
because it's cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, I might want to take the kids on first class, depending on how far we're flying.
Yeah, well, depending on how far you might want to, but
I get your point. Point.
Yeah. So look, guys, you only live once in life. So there's things that are worth spending extra money. I can't sit here and do all this work and sweat out. And again, most of the time it doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like the Jaguars, they won outright, but the line was 3.5. Well, if it's at 3.5, wouldn't I feel like a real sucker losing 24-20? And then I'd feel like a real sucker if I only bought a half to 4 and it pushed. Because to me, a push feels like a loss because I was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's why you take it how you want to take it. 192 games over. And I said 25 is being generous. Really, it's only about 15 games difference between units and games over. Because as the hockey goes on through the baseball season, 60% of our plays were underdogs in baseball, right at plus money. So, I mean, tomato. But that's what I look for, and that's why I do it. But I will say, very rarely does it come into play. I just feel better because there's things in life that you should pay a little extra for. And if that means you got to work a little harder, then work a little harder to have them. So that's my rant. Sorry.
Couldn't agree more. Yes, I agree. And I think there's just a mentality, right? And that's sort of something that we preach here, that you preach, is having this mindset, not of a typical gambler, and just losing money because you're going after the sexy thing. And the sexy thing in some situations might be, hey, I could make more money on this. Instead, it's having discipline. It's thinking about the long game. It's maybe making a little bit less in order to make sure that you still have money in the bank to keep gambling. And so all of these practices, I think, is 100% what we're preaching. And what I love about us and I love about you is the fact that, gambling is sort of it's got this stigma against it, and probably less so in recent years, just given the popularity has grown, but it's got this stigma about it. But we're over here teaching, to me, the Dave Ramsey of gambling. It's like, hey, here's how to do it responsibly and make sure you win and can continue gambling and can continue having fun with it so that you're not, sitting on a park bench, sleeping on a park bench, while your wife's jacked up with her brother or whatever.
There you go. Attaboy. See, I've learned. Look, it's so easy. I had a guy text me this weekend. He said, I'm doing what you said. I'm sending it in. I'm like, wait. Right. Yes, I get that mentality rather than, hey, pulling back when you're on a winning streak. But do remember, Thursday's great, Friday's great, Saturday's great, Sunday, we're going to end up plus units today. But I want to break, 5-1 college basketball, 0-1 in the NBA. It's 5-2, 3-4 in football, 8-6 pending the Kings game. So we're going to come out making money or basically breaking even because of juice, right? Depending on what happens in the Kings game. But like I told him, don't blow the past week. Again, you can't up your bets until you get to that certain point. And the rule of thumb I like to live by is, can you bet the same amount of money and sustain 20 losses in a row? That's really how you should look at it. And you say, John, well, why is that your thought process? Well, well, my thought process is if I'm betting 500 a game and I drop 11 in a row, and so now I pull back and go down to 200 a game, well, hell, I got to win like 25 games to get back where I was just off the 11 losses. You're never going to get ahead that way. And so you need to be able to, whether you're online like I do with my 2 books, or when I go to the window like I did today, I walk to the window. I don't sit there and say, let's see, give me, no. I go with my bets written down. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm betting. I don't let anything deviate from that. I don't let any of these squares walking around or that I hear this noise. Oh yeah, this team's going to blow them out. And this team's this, I don't take any of that in. I don't need to hear any of those losers. No offense to them, but you know what I mean? They're losers. And go and I put my stuff in and I walk right the freak out and I stick to my plan. Then I go on about my day. Right. And that's hard. Like I told a guy, I have to be reminded of that same stuff because yesterday we were on a roll tearing it up, but I put more money on Miami, Florida than I did any other team. I bet double on that because I love that game the most. And that's the one that I got my ass kicked on. So it doesn't matter. And that's why I say these guys, that just proves my point about these guys that say, oh, this is my $5 or that's my $20. Look, all right, Jacko the Clown. It doesn't work like that.